barrage of corruption. Closed door meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell. The principal seems to me like Tulsi Gabbard might be next. Pamela Joe Bondi. Didn't know her middle name was Joe, by the way. Didn't know her name was, or her middle name was Joe. That's a strange middle name to have. But very, I mean, I guess it makes sense. Very white trash when you think about it, which is, you know, precisely what she is, or dare I say was. Well, I guess she still is white trash, right? And there's always going to be a fall guy. And I told you that eventually the fall guy would be, you know, the person overseeing, the person that was the most televised individual on whatever that related incident was. For the Department of Homeland Security, it was Greg Bovino and Kirstie Noem. And they got axed for that reason. And for the Epstein files and the mishandling of the Epstein files, it's actually Kash Patel and Pam Bondi. But Kash Patel is seemingly standing strong. I wonder what will happen for the economy. I wonder who will get the axe for the economy, and I wonder who will get the axe for the military quagmire that we found ourselves in the Strait of Hormuz as we have been attacking the state of Iran. You look like Leto Atreides when you wear your suits, especially the high-collared ones. Now all you need is a Bene Gesserit baddie. Yeah. My Bene Gesserit baddie is obviously is obviously going to be Nancy Pelosi. I mean, I'm in her hood right now anyway. This is literally her place, right? This is swag. Okay. Obviously, first, we are going to talk about the domestic instability that's taken place in the United States of America. We're talking about Trump.
Another major shift.
Seismic shift, ladies and gentlemen. As we already played the Crab Rave earlier, you already know Pamela Joe Bondi is out as the Attorney General. Let's take a look.
Wake up at the White House. Attorney General Pam Bondi has been ousted.
Let's go now to CNN senior White House correspondent Kristen Holmes. Kristen, tell us what you're learning. This is brand new.
Yeah, things are very fluid. They're moving very quickly, but I am told that Pam Bondi has been officially fired. She's out of her role. Now, where she goes next, that is a question mark. I was told in the meeting or in the conversation President Trump had with Bondi yesterday, he floated the idea of a judgeship as a potential landing place for Bondi. And in the interim period, while they are figuring out who is going to take over as Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche will step into that role. So he will be serving in the interim. Pam Bondi, though, is out. We had already reported that she was in Florida. We have been talking about for the last several hours how in the last week, President Trump had been calling allies, asking about firing her, who should replace her. It doesn't seem as though they have someone.
Perhaps the Dow is below 50K. And that might have played a role in the Pam Bondi ouster. Who knows? Turns out, if you place a lot of emphasis on the Dow and then, your president decides to blow up the energy markets, you might be the first to go. So I suspect that this is the next step, by the way. Trump weighs replacing Intel chief Tulsi Gabbard after she shielded Joe Kent, who undercut Trump's Iran war rationale. Someone's got to fall on a sword for every single thing that Donald Trump is messing up right now. I don't know who it will be for the economy. Someone's going to have to go for that too eventually. But it's clear that for the immigration stuff, the immigration panic, the anger and resentment that people felt, and the protest that they initiated, where they successfully purged ICE Gestapo thugs from Minneapolis, led the Trump administration to take the initiative and release a pressure valve. The first one was Greg Bovino, the manlet himself, and the second was Kirstie Noem, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Pam Bondi is the sacrificial lamb for the Epstein files. Because the Epstein files is yet another pressure point for the admin. A lot of people are frustrated. A lot of people are frustrated about the Epstein files and the lack of revelation and the rollout of the Epstein files, the lack of transparency. Shouts out to Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie for leading that charge. They did a phenomenal job. I mean, these sorts of things don't just happen, right? Sometimes it's good for politicians to lean into the public pressure. Sometimes if the politicians don't do that, the people will create that public pressure, as they did in Minneapolis, right? Central Committee, thank you for the raid. Michael from Taiwan. Michael refusing to call it Chinese Taipei. Thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream. But as I was saying, Pam Bondi's disastrous performance in front of Congress, in front of that congressional hearing, I think that all but secured her demise. Trump saw that, and he thought, that's it, you're done. Now, she's in a horrible predicament regardless, because there's no one in that position that can successfully defend the Trump administration's lack of interest in identifying Jeffrey Epstein co-conspirators. Trump himself is obviously heavily involved with Jeffrey Epstein. So she's almost in the same situation that Israel defenders are when they have to defend the indefensible, right? So that's precisely what happened here. Donald Trump made her fall on the sword, a pressure valve. There's two other areas that Donald Trump has to release pressure on as well to make it seem like he's actually responsive to the needs of the public. One of them is going to be the war in Iran, and the other is going to be on inflation. So I don't know exactly how he's going to retaliate on that front, how he's going to release another pressure valve on that front as well. But Pam Bondi will be remembered as the attorney general who watched videos and saw images of powerful men raping kids and decided to protect the men. Is true.
Specific in mind, we know that they have floated the idea of Lee Zeldin among other people. Zeldin is currently leading the EPA, but I am told that is not a done deal. President Trump, interestingly, did issue a very flattering for President Trump's statement about Bondi last night, saying Attorney General Pam Bondi is a wonderful person and she is doing a good job. The reason that I note that is that because when we saw Kristi Noem being fired, there was none of that kind of generosity of spirit when it came to President Trump. Now, just a reminder, Bondi has a very close relationship with Susie Wiles, the chief of staff. They're both political operatives in Florida. They kind of came up together, so they have a long-lasting relationship. But President Trump had grown increasingly frustrated about a number of issues. One, didn't believe that some of the cases against his adversaries or political adversaries were being brought fast enough. He didn't believe that she had handled the Epstein files well, among other things. So we do know they had this conversation yesterday in which essentially President Trump told her that she was not long for this world, that he would eventually be replacing her. What we know now is that she has been officially fired. And again, Todd Blanche will step into that role as the deputy attorney general into an acting attorney general role.
And Kristen, this now marks the second cabinet position that Trump has fired and now has sought a replacement for within the last month. What can you tell us about Blanche himself, his relationship to Trump? Obviously, he's going to be in the acting role until a new attorney general is put in place.
Well, look, Blanche and President Trump are incredibly close. He served as his personal attorney before taking this role as the deputy attorney.
I mean, yeah, Todd Blanche and Pam Bondi are both former defense attorneys for the president, a spectacular conflict of interest for any administration. And for Donald Trump, it's just another Tuesday, right? I mean, there is such an overwhelming force of corruption in this country, in this administration, that is so transparent, so in your face, that I think most people have given up. Most people have given up on even addressing it, right? Where they're like, yeah, what are you going to do? I mean, it's unbelievable. I talked about it quite extensively in the beginning where I was like, this is ridiculous. This is the attorney general is a former defense attorney for Donald Trump. That's totally ridiculous. And the deputy attorney general, Todd Blanche, is also a former defense attorney for Donald Trump. And then I brought that back up when we were talking about the Ghislaine Maxwell situation where former defense attorney for Donald Trump, current deputy attorney general Todd Blanche, went and had a private closed-door meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell, the principal co-conspirator to the Epstein files, the only remaining alive person, basically the skeleton key for unlocking the secrets of the entire Epstein saga, right? Totally ridiculous. And they even, they transported her to a much nicer facility after that conversation took place. Like that was already an indication of where things were going to head. Of course they're going to do that, right? Of course the administration is going to do that, especially because there's no pushback. There's not enough pushback, rather. And for many people, for ordinary Americans who are too busy trying to make ends meet, they're frustrated with all the things that they're seeing, but they also have a hard time mounting pressure consistently because there's a barrage of corruption. It's this tornado of corrupt entities coming together to pick apart America's corpse, basically. It's quite difficult to deal with, and in the absence of any sort of Democratic Party organizing and taking on a leadership role in identifying what these issues are and pushing and pulling when necessary, it comes across as a rudderless movement overall. We're not as disciplined as we could be. I mean, we're all trying our best, but I will say that the Democratic Party's lack of interest, with some very notable exceptions, of course, obviously Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie is a great example of one of those areas where they were able to lean into the public pressure campaign, and they were able to successfully get this scalp. They played a big role in this. You all did as well, but this is an example that should be repeated in every single issue. Identify a problem, expose the contradictions, take advantage of the fact that people are very frustrated. If you're a politician, identify a problem, and then do everything in your power to make political changes. Apply legislative pressure, hold congressional hearings, right? Hey, Hasan, I know you hate spam, flirt. I do too, but did you know the Piker Broadcasting Service brings a free news experience to the people and is funded entirely by subs from you, the viewer? Yes, that's true. The Piker Broadcasting Service is funded by you, the people, for you, the people. If you'd like to fund the show, all you need to do is subscribe, which you can do for free with the Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, or with a $6 a month subscription. That's right, PBS. For tomorrow's news today. Set to it run. Thank you for the 20 gifted subs. You can also gift subs to others as well. Your subscription allows you to be able to rewind the broadcast, which is one of the amenities. You can use the emotes all around the website. And also, you get the opportunity to send me links. Russell Butt, thank you for the 5 gifted. And Los Pipos, thank you for the 5 gifted. Are you surprised Trump did this now? I thought the Epstein file chaos had died down because of Iran. I don't think it's going away.
General, and there are a number of people who are around President Trump's orbit who have said that Blanche isn't political enough. Well, we saw Blanche taking a new role recently when he stepped out at CPAC and essentially said that everybody who had ever investigated Donald Trump or brought charges against him had been fired from the Department of Justice, making the Department of Justice clear.
It is interesting that it was Pam Bondi that ate the axe here. And I do think it's because he really did not like her performance, specifically in front of Congress. Right? Because, how do you not cut cash? I think Cash is one of the least popular figures in the admin. And he is largely seen as like the responsible figure for messing up the Charlie Kirk stuff. There's no threat. I mean, there is no no one trusts him, right? Like he is not a trustworthy figure at all. I mean, I know he's loyal, but so is Pam Bondi, right? Cash is a keeper. You're talking crazy. Cash is a jester, bro. He wrote a kiss ass book for Trump. I mean, so is okay, chat. Every single person that we're talking about in this administration is in that position that they're in currently because they've ass kissed Donald Trump. There's not a single person that's in that position due to competence. They're all there for loyalty. That's always been the case since day one. We already know that, right? So it's actually surprising that Donald Trump would axe Pam Bondi, who is seemingly a little bit more competent than Kash Patel and just as loyal as Cash is. And I guess it's because of that televised congressional hearing. He really did not like that.
For Bondi, what we've seen is she's taken a different tack from what we've seen in the previous administration, the first Trump administration, when Bill Barr and Mike Pompeo fell out of favor. You know, one of the things they did was they avoided Trump. They just reduced their amount of exposure to him as a way to sort of like let him sort of calm down. Bondi has taken the opposite tack. She has spent a lot more time with him. She seemed to try to be more present as a way to ingratiate herself with the president. In the end, it did not work. And really, the original sin goes back to February of last year, when she orchestrated that event at the White House with these binders with documents that were years old. They'd been in the public sphere for years, and she didn't seem to know that. She didn't know that. And at that time, if you remember, the administration is new in office. There is really no constituency. There was nobody demanding the Epstein files. And she created this event out of nowhere. No one really was expecting that. And so they have not been able to live down that moment since. And the damage to the president because of that, I think, has been incalculable because, you know, MAGA base has not let it go.
She wasn't the president's first choice for this job. Let's remember, it was Matt Gaetz who could not be confirmed. That was not going to fly. And now I wonder, Jeff, how tough it is going to be to confirm someone to replace her, considering.
What do the MAGA folks think about these types of things, these firings? Do they just believe that Trump is always right and he must have had a great reason to fire her? Yes. These past couple of days, we have perhaps focused too much on situation monitoring and not enough on how the Trump, the MAGA movement is like coping with this stuff. I mean, they're a cult, so they're obviously going to always agree with Donald Trump first and foremost. But obviously, this is any kind of initiative that Trump takes. Any kind of move that Trump makes like this, he's doing it with the base in mind. I do wonder how they communicate. I do wonder how they defend this kind of stuff. I guess for them it's like, oh yeah, thank God he got rid of the perfidious Pam Bondi. She was the one who was rat fucking the admin. Maybe she was the reason why we couldn't get the Epstein files, out on time in a timely manner. I don't know. I don't know. You have to, I guess, like for some, to develop a better appreciation, develop a better understanding, we got to do hogwatch, right? We haven't really done enough hogwatch as of late, because I've been too busy, covering the actual news and also simultaneously having to deal with hogs in our own ranks, right? The ostensibly left flank hogs, the centrist right-wing Democrats. So I don't know what the Asmin Goy team is saying.
There are a number of senators. she and Kash Patel were put in their positions with promises of not going to retaliate or use DOJ or the FBI to go after President Trump's enemies. And yet we've seen that is exactly what it has been used for. So I wonder how difficult this process will be to find someone to replace her.
I think the confirmation process will be very difficult and dramatically different from what we've just seen with the Secretary of Homeland Security, Mark Wayne Mullen. Even if a senator happens to be chosen, and if you have been mentioned possibly, one is going to be very reluctant to accept this position because Attorney General is different than every other position in the cabinet. And there's
what is this? MAGA mom has been saying she wants Bondi fired to atone for Epstein. Boomer MAGA will be all over the moon with this. Interesting. For them, they see this as a much needed respite. Maybe they see this as like the administration being responsive to their needs. Perhaps, maybe that's the case.
Enough muscle memory now, beginning with Jeff Sessions, who could not be any more loyal initially until he fell out of favor because he recused himself. And that's something that the president still has in mind. He will choose someone who will never recuse themselves from anything. So I think that these confirmation hearings for the next attorney general will be dramatically different, largely because of what Evan was saying, everything that has been learned over the last year. The Epstein files are not going away now. That genie is well out of the bottle, regardless of who the attorney general is. So I think it's very difficult. But to your point, I was thinking the exact same thing. She was not his first.
It's so funny that the MAGA cult is, I mean, I guess they are doing the good czar, bad boy R's, right? In their minds, they're thinking Donald Trump is this infallible deity, this figure that is the best hero to champion all the causes that they care about. They don't understand that like Pam Bondi was in that position for her utmost loyalty to Donald Trump. And that the only reason why she came across as like inconsistent or bad on the Epstein stuff was because of Donald Trump's demands. Donald Trump put her in this bind. Donald Trump put her in this indefensible position where she had to sit there and defend it. Asmongold reacts to Pam Bondi's national crash out. Yeah, I remember him saying this.
People voted against it, and you were one of them, hypocrite.
Honestly, Donald's got to get rid of this bitch. He does. Like, one of the best things he could do is just say, like, listen, like, we tried, we did what we needed to do. We thought that she'd be able to do it, and it turns out.
Do what? Like, release the Epstein files while also simultaneously sheltering all the co-conspirators, including people like Donald Trump? Like, I despise her, but I also despise Donald Trump. That's the morally consistent position, right? Because Pam Bondi is a mere expression of the desires of Trump. That's why she was the attorney general. So it just doesn't make sense that these guys will be like, yeah, Pam Bondi is like singularly responsible for not releasing the Epstein files. As a matter of fact, it's all entirely in her hands, right?
A choice. He knew her well, obviously. She was involved in the campaign from Florida. Wasn't inherently a political years ago, became very political. But she was not, she was chosen because she would be reputable and pretty easy to be confirmed after Matt Gaetz. So it's going to be fascinating to see who the president picks. Lee Zeldin is one of the leading contenders, a former member of Congress, different for a House member than a senator we've seen over the years here. So the confirmation process.
Why would anyone take this position? You know your ass is just going to get cooked in congressional hearings 24/7. There's no other alternative, That's just, it is what it is. I mean, these guys are brown nosers. They get a tremendous amount of time in front of cameras. They elevate their platform. They know. Look, I don't think anyone is so stupid that they think Trump is not eventually going to use them as a sacrificial lamb when things get hot. Okay? Michael Pence was Donald Trump's vice president. When Donald Trump lost the election, he decided to lie and say that the election was stolen from him. And they looked for a way to seize control over the government and deny the democratic outcomes in 2020. Okay? One of the things that they thought they could do is maybe identify this like totally procedural, ceremonial a process that Mike Pence was overseeing. They wanted to pressure Mike Pence to stop the authorization of all the votes that were coming in, right? That's January 6th. Mike Pence was Donald Trump's vice president. Donald Trump literally goaded his fans to go and do an insurrection where they were demanding to assassinate his vice president. Okay? So if Donald Trump will demand or play a role in the attempted hanging of his vice president, what makes you think the attorney general is going to be free of such scrutiny? Right? It's totally ridiculous. Donald Trump has a track record of consistently firing people whenever he wants to shift the blame away, shift the attention away from himself and his shortcomings. I think everyone that's in this administration is aware of that, right? They just think it'll be someone else holding the bag. Seems to me like Tulsi Gabbard might be next.